Today we are going to make and decorate a Black Forest frozen yogurt chiffon cake. There are many components for this cake, so let's get started. First, mix the oil, flour, and cocoa powder. If you have seen my previous chiffon cake videos, you know that I never need to sift flour. But since there's cocoa powder in there, I'll do it because cocoa powder tends to clump up in the storage containers. First, combining the oil and flour won't develop gluten. You can stir it any way you want. Now add the milk and egg yolks. Stir until all well combined. Now let's whip the egg whites. Add cream of tartar to the egg whites and beat on high speed. Cream of tartar can stabilize the meringue. If you don't have it, you can add a small teaspoon of lemon juice or vinegar instead. You can also use a hand mixer for this. Both methods will work just fine. When you see big bubbles forming, add a third of the sugar. When the foam becomes finer and silkier, you can add another third of the sugar. Continue to beat on high speed. The foam will continue to get silkier, and you will start to see some texture lines or trails. At this point, you can add the remaining sugar and beat on medium-high speed. Continue beating until you see some stiff peaks. After lifting the whisk, the meringue is stable and firm, and the peak will not drip. Scoop about 1/3 of the egg whites to the batter and fold it in gently. This is to lighten the batter initially and prepare it for the rest of the egg whites. Once it's mixed well, change to a spatula and pour it into the egg whites. Continue to fold gently until it's all combined. Repeat this movement until the batter is homogeneous. Don't overdo it. Transfer the batter into the pan immediately. Shake it, tap it a couple of times to get rid of the big bubbles, and draw a few circles with a toothpick to flatten the surface. Place it in a preheated oven and bake it at 300 degrees for 50 minutes. Personally, I prefer to bake it at 300 degrees for 40 minutes, then increase the temperature to 320 degrees for 5 minutes. This is after a few testings with my oven, as oven temperature varies. If I just bake it at 300 degrees for 50 minutes, even though it's perfectly baked, the top of the cake will be a bit sticky after it's cool. So if you have the same problem, you can do the same switch. Once it's out of the oven, tap it on the table once, then cool it upside down. It will take 2 to 3 hours to cook completely. Now that the cake is cool, remove it from the pan carefully, then slice it in half. Remember the flattened top as well. Now let's make the Black Forest frozen yogurt, which is just cherry frozen yogurt with chocolate chip added in there. First, roughly chop up some chocolate. You can use milk, semi-sweet or bittersweet. Also cut up some small pieces of cherry. Next, combine the frozen cherries, yogurt and honey into the food processor. Blend until they are nice and creamy. Mix in the chocolate chunks and diced cherries. Apply a little bit of frozen yogurt on the bottom to secure the cake to the cake board. Wrap the cake with a piece of plastic cake collar and secure it with tape. Scoop the yogurt in there. Put this in the freezer immediately and let it set for 2 hours. About an hour and a half later, we'll make a simple chocolate mousse. Combine semi-sweet chocolate chips and heavy whipping cream in a bowl. Heat this in the microwave for 45 seconds. Stir until all well incorporated. Let this cool off in the fridge for about half an hour. Now transfer it to a mixing bowl and whip on high speed until it thickens. Transfer it to a piping bag and pipe it onto the cake immediately. Put the other layer of the cake on there. Now put this back in the freezer and freeze for another 3 to 4 hours. Now let's make the whipped cream frosting. Combine the heavy whipping cream and powdered sugar in a mixing bowl. Whip on high speed until it thickens. This is good. Transfer these into a large piping bag. Take the cake out from the freezer and pipe your cream all over it. I usually don't have to use a piping bag for this, but since I'm working with a cake that has frozen yogurt in it, I need to work faster, so piping bag helps. Smooth out the cream the best you can. Use a large star tip and pipe some cream on top. Put some cherries on there. Now put this back in the freezer immediately. Now we'll make the last component for this cake, I promise. Put some semi-sweet chocolate chips in a bowl. Heat this in the microwave 3 times in 30-second intervals. Take it out every 30 seconds and stir it around. Doing this will allow time for the heat to transfer evenly. If you just do it for 1.5 minutes straight, you will burn the chocolate. So be patient and do it 30 seconds at a time. Once it's all nicely melted, pour it on a piece of parchment paper. Spread it out evenly with a spatula. Roll it up, secure it with a glass and put this in the fridge to set about an hour. I have some whipped cream left, so I'm going to mix a little bit of this melted chocolate in there to make chocolate whipped cream. The chocolate is now hardened. You can unroll the paper. The chocolate will just fall off and form beautiful looking chocolate bark. Now let's finish up the cake decoration. Pipe some of the chocolate cream on there with a small star tip. Put the chocolate bark all around the cake. For the finishing touch, sprinkle some chocolate pieces on there. And this is now completed. Thanks for watching.